So, one important lesson that I've learned recently is the lesson of how to appear wise. I think it goes a long ways when you're meeting people, you're in groups that you're not used to being in, you're in these meetings that, might be above your level that you're currently at. You're talking with VPs, executives, or just, older people, whatever. The best thing you can do is to remain silent for the most part. I know sometimes it's tempting to just throw your 2 cents in there. I'm that kind of guy too who just loves to give his opinion naturally. But if you're not being directly asked to do certain things, just remain silent and it will take you a long, long ways. And the Bible speaks about this, which is awesome. In Proverbs 17, even the fool is considered wise when he remains silent in the right situation. And it's so true, man. I am going through an interview process, and a lot of the times find myself just kind of sitting back and letting the dude rant about whatever they want to rant about, right? Whether that be this is the kind of culture we're trying to build, and then they blah 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 blah, and you just kind of agree, or like this is what I see happening, blah 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 blah, blah, like, and just letting them go and letting them do it, and then giving your 2 cents here and there, but not dictating the conversation, letting you appear wiser when you do that, man, and it's so true. And then it kind of goes into how else can you appear wise? I think another big thing is just showing a control of emotion, and this one's a lot harder than just shutting up, but it kind of ties into it. It's so easy. I found myself, I'm trying to do this like spiritual journey this year where I'm reading this daily devotional of the Bible, and I'm just trying to be a lot more Christ-like. However, lately I've just seen test after test, and man, it's embarrassing to admit, but it's just like I'm failing test after test, and one of them came in the form of just again flag football, and just playing against guys that were probably the biggest jerks I've ever played against in my life, and here I am allowing their frat energy, their immaturity, their playing around the rules, not playing with the rules to get into my head, and I got a penalty for hitting a guy, not hitting a guy like punching him, but these guys were shoulder checking when you're not allowed to. And, I'm a shorter dude, so they're shoulder checking right into my face. And so I'm like, hey, guys, like, let's not do this. And they say a little snarky comment, like, what, you can't handle it? And so I just, like, all right, next play, just boom, laid them out, right? And that's not a good thing to do. Obviously, it made me feel good in the moment, but it cost my team a penalty. And you know what? Looking back, I just look like a little dumbass who can't control my emotions. And if I just appeared wise by doing the strategy of just remaining silent, letting it run off your back, turn the other cheek, as the scripture says as well. You just seem a lot wiser. You just seem a lot like you have your head on your shoulders. And especially when you're in your mid 20s, man, it's just important to not let people gain your head like that. This is the point in your life where you're really dictating your habits, like I've said, for the rest of your life. And it's important to build good habits. It's important to make sure that you don't allow yourself to fall into this temptation of wrath and anger whenever people give you a little lip or give you a little physical shove. Um, you know, I've always wanted to get in a fight, like I've always just envisioned it'd be fun to get into like a little scruffle with some jerk who deserves it. But, because I've had that wish for years now, it also, when that opportunity arises, I'm going to look like an idiot who can't control my emotions. And also, here's the big thing. Here's the big thing that I've learned recently. And, I've heard it my whole life, but now I'm really starting to look at the impact of it. And that's the fact that, sin isn't something that you do and then you ask for forgiveness and that's the end all be all. Like sometimes that is the case, and I'd say actually probably the majority of the time that is the case, but there is some sin out there that's going to have lasting consequences, and we saw it time and time again in the Bible. We've mentioned David and Moses as references for these kind of things before, and again I'll go back to David and Moses. David, the sin of Bathsheba, lusting after this girl to the point where he's sending someone to die in a war so that he can take his wife for himself. Well, they have a kid together, and that kid ends up dying, right? And Moses, the sin of you know, allowing wrath to take control, allowing himself to kind of get flustered by the people's demands, and he goes against God's words. He strikes the rock, he doesn't speak to it, and what happens? He's not able to go into the promised land. There is lasting consequences with sin. Momentary lapse in judgment can dictate an eternal, not eternal, but sometimes an eternal. Yeah, absolutely an eternal. When you think about the big picture of like rejecting Christ, but more so, it'll have a lifelong, lasting impact. And we see that with stuff like sexual immorality. Obviously, momentary enjoyment can produce a baby, can produce diseases that just kind of really can throw a huge wrench into your life. And what you have going for you. And so it's important to be able to control your emotions. And I'd say the best thing to do is just obviously stay grounded in Scripture. I think when you're strong in your faith, you're a lot more stable with your emotions. At least I am. And then when I find myself kind of starting to slip uh, out of the good habits that we build when it comes to um, trying to live a more like Christ-like life, you find yourself more malleable when it comes to wrath. When it comes to, I'm gonna let it roll in so that the time ticks off. You see what I was doing there? But that's basically all I got, man. Wrath is a very destructive thing. If I was to have punched one of those guys in the face at the flag football game like I wanted to, I could have been arrested for assault, and there goes my job. There's a lot of other sins where it's like a momentary, a little momentary um, reward, a little momentary satisfaction that could have a lifelong impact. So, hope you guys enjoyed, man. Go out there, try to be calm, test your emotions. There's going to be tests popping up for you, so just understand that it's a test. Understand that there is right and wrong answers to this test, and go out there and just shut up. That's basically all I got. So I'll see you guys in the next one.